This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Sure looks to me like the EU is paving the way to slap higher tariffs on Chinese EV imports. In October of last year, the European Commission launched an investigation to see if Chinese automakers are benefiting too much from EV subsidies. The worry is the automakers are getting subsidies in their home market to make the EVs, then shipping them to Europe where they get additional sales subsidies, which gives the Chinese automakers greater pricing flexibility, and that would have a negative impact on the European car industry. The Commission requested information from several Chinese companies that sell EVs in Europe, and so far, it says BYD, Geely, and SAIC have not provided it with enough info. That's not too surprising because Chinese officials said when the investigation was launched that the EU was asking for too much. And if the Commission determines that it hasn't gotten enough info, it can use quote-unquote facts available from other sources to calculate its tariffs. European rules say that it can impose provisional anti-subsidy duties 9 months after the start of the probe, which was 7 months ago. So I expect to see some fireworks in early July for more than one reason. New car sales in the U.S. dropped more than analysts were expecting in April. According to global data, automakers sold 1.32 million vehicles last month, down 3.9% compared to a year ago. Analysts were expecting a 2% drop in sales due to one less selling day compared to last year. The seasonally adjusted annual rate, or SAAR, came in at 15.7 million vehicles. That was slightly ahead of March of this year and about the same as April of last year. Car sales in the U.S. had grown year over year for 20 consecutive months, but April broke that trend. And while analysts expect sales this year to be sluggish compared to last year, they are projecting that sales will range anywhere from 15.7 to 16.1 million units, compared to 15.6 million last year. Rivian is getting a bunch of money to expand its factory in Normal, Illinois. The state is providing the EV startup with an incentive package worth $827 million, including $75 million for a deal closing fund, $634 million in tax incentives, and the rest will go towards a second training center. As part of the deal, Rivian has to add at least 550 jobs in the state over the next 5 years, maintain at least 6,000 jobs, and invest $1.5 billion in its manufacturing operations. That shouldn't be too hard for Rivian. It currently has around 8,000 employees in Illinois and said earlier this year it would spend about $1.75 billion on capital expenditures, including plant expansions. But that $634 million tax incentive is over a 30-year period, so it's only a little over $21 million a year. No doubt Rivian will happily take the money, which it will use to build its all-new R2 model. But it really is a drop in the bucket in terms of what it costs to upgrade a plant. Rivian had just under $8 billion in cash and cash equivalents at the end of last year, and it will certainly have to start dipping into that piggy bank at some point. Tesla is suing an Indian battery maker over copyright infringement for using the name Tesla Power to promote its products. The automaker says it sent a cease and desist letter to the battery maker in April of 2022, but it's been unsuccessful in stopping it from doing so. Tesla Power says it's not infringing on the automaker's name because it makes lead-acid batteries and has no intention of making electric vehicles. Tesla is seeking damages and a permanent injunction against the battery maker. The case will head to court later this month. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this.
Immerse yourself in engineering innovation while enjoying a fun and engaging networking environment. Get ready for exciting new demonstrations and collaboration with Metro Detroit automotive engineers, R&D, operations professionals, and technical experts. Connect with professionals covering topics on software-defined vehicles, wireless battery management, virtual ECUs, the ongoing innovation in automotive Ethernet, 10-base T1S, and much more. Calibrate your knowledge in the shift towards centralized computing and software-defined vehicles for free at Intrepid's SDV Social on Wednesday, May 8th from 4 to 7 p.m. To register for this event, visit intrepidcs.com/SDVsocial.
The Audi Group, including Bentley, Lamborghini, and Ducati, really got hammered in the first quarter of the year. Deliveries came to just over 402,000 vehicles, which is a decline of about 4.7% compared to last year. It said it was particularly affected by supply chain issues for vehicles with V6 and V8 engines. And because those are usually its higher price models, it really impacted Audi's financial results as well. Revenue came in at 13.7 billion euros, down 18.7%. Operating profit slipped to 466 million euros, a massive drop of over 74%, and its net profit ended the quarter at 736 million euros, which is another big drop of more than 58%. Despite those poor results, Audi still expects to hit its financial goals for the year. Availability of vehicles with V6 and V8 engines will improve throughout the year, and the group plans to launch 20 new models over the next 2 years. Renault sees big potential for its remanufactured parts division, which it just renamed the Remakers. At one of its plants in France, it takes in old cars, removes the parts, cleans them, sometimes rebuilds them, and then sells the parts, which are usually about 30% cheaper than new. The Remakers already offer more than 11,000 parts, including engines, transmissions, electric motors, power electronics, and infotainment systems. Renault says it wants to grow this business by 50% by the end of the decade, because by that time, it estimates the total replacement parts market will generate 8.2 billion euros. And speaking of Renault, it's expanding its lineup of compact crossovers with the introduction of the new Symbioz. The model shares a platform with Renault's Arcana fastback SUV. They also share a hybrid powertrain, a 1.6-liter inline four-cylinder with 2 electric motors. The primary motor makes 36 kilowatts, and the secondary unit is 15 kilowatts. The total setup produces 145 horsepower and has a range of 1,000 kilometers or 621 miles. Renault says non-hybrid versions of the Symbioz will be available later. It now has 4 small entry-level crossovers, the Symbioz, the Arcana, Austral, and Scenic. And while that sounds like a lot, the compact SUV segment is the second largest in Europe, and more than 511,000 were sold in the first quarter. Earlier this week, Aston Martin announced it's not dropping V12 engines from its lineup and is coming out with a redesigned version that will likely debut in the new Vanquish. But it's not the only luxury sports car maker hanging on to V12s. Ferrari just introduced a new model that's powered by a naturally aspirated V12 engine. It's offered as both a coupe and a convertible. The coupe is called the 12 Cylindri, which is replacing the 812 Superfast, and the convertible is the 12 Cylindri Spider and replaces the 812 GTS. The models are powered by a 6.5-liter 12-cylinder gasoline engine that produces 818 horsepower. The coupe will be available first and goes on sale in Europe in the fourth quarter of the year. It will arrive in the US in early 2025. Pricing for the coupe starts at 395,000 euros or $418,700, and the convertible costs 435,000 euros or about 470,000 bucks. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility. And by ZF.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
when the elements are working against you, being confident in your grip on the road is what really matters. Bridgestone Alenza tires. Improved acceleration in wet conditions.
Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.